East Asia saw an outflow of funds like the rest of emerging Asia since the Fed's May remarks that it may taper its stimulus, but as we all know by now, that, well, didn't happen, at least yet. That event highlighted the need for more stable sources of funding, and while that turmoil made it harder for companies to issue foreign currency bonds, the Asian Development Bank said the issuance of local currency bonds was less effective. Let's talk to Iwan Azis, head of the Office of Regional Economic Integration at the ADB, Asian Development Bank. He joins us live out of Tokyo. Pak, good morning. Great to see you. Appreciate your time. Let's get to the key question. That is, I want to know, in terms of emerging Asian economies, who is the most vulnerable to an outflow of foreign funds? And the flip side of that question is, foreign ownership levels of Asian sovereign debt? Where is it the highest?
Okay, in terms of the last point, that is the percentage of the foreign ownerships, the two top highest is Indonesia and Malaysia. By the way, in our report, we only covered 9 countries, so I'm talking about out of the 9 countries, the top 2 are Indonesia and Malaysia. But in terms of the vulnerability, I think Indonesia at this moment, because some of the indicators, especially the inflation rate, current account deficit, fiscal deficit, are really not in favor of the Indonesian market at this moment.
Okay, having said that, though, Indonesia was the first to pull the trigger in terms of addressing these imbalances and cutting subsidies. Malaysia soon followed suit. But this is only just the beginning. There's more work to do, you think?
Absolutely, and they are doing it. The problem is that I should say most of them are not really going to come up with the outcome in the short run, because some of these issues are really medium-term issues related to structural reform and so forth.
Okay, now are these going to be harder to push through, especially in a country and an economy like Indonesia with the very crucial elections coming up next year?
No, I'm not that pessimistic about it, because in a way, what happened since May after the QE tapering discussion, it's an eye-opening for the policymakers as well as the market in part of this region. So I'm not too pessimistic about the success of the reform at this moment. Of course, if you look at the big picture, it's a bit sad why we need to have a quote-unquote crisis before they're really serious in terms of the structural reform.
Yeah, strange, huh? It's almost human nature, I guess, because, policy is decided by human policymakers, that is. You talk about a couple of key metrics that people in the market are watching: current account deficits, fiscal deficits, etc., and Indonesia as well as Malaysia not doing too well on either front. But what about reserves? Because a lot of people say the difference between now and, let's say, 13 years ago, the Asian financial crisis is, part of the difference is that reserves right now are much, much higher.
Yeah, it's no doubt that the situation at this moment is not as bad as in 1997, and among other things, because of the reserve. And if you recall, the first market turmoil started late May, and then it peaked in June. And during that period, some of these countries, including Indonesia, is trying to use the reserve to intervene the foreign exchange market. And then when they started to realize that on the one hand, that doesn't help in terms of stopping the capital outflows, and on the other hand, they started to see that their foreign reserves started to dwindle to a certain level, then they stopped doing it. So I think using the foreign reserve to intervene the foreign exchange market is not the right way to do at this moment.
Indeed, capital controls, are they the right way? The IMF seems to think so now, finally.
What? No, it's not really, because the term capital control is too loosely used now by many people. If you're talking about sterilized intervention, for example, that is also part of capital control, but that is the indirect capital control. But the more blatant capital control is like, for example, you're not allowing the repatriation and so forth. And I hope they're not doing it, because that will not help the market.
Okay, thank you so much, Iwan Azis from the ADB, joining us live up in Tokyo.